Welcome back to Stranger Games. Currently, several games are produced every day to serve the gaming community. A game that is loved by gamers will certainly greatly help the game developer's survival. However, sometimes just being good is not enough. Many game developers have failed throughout the history of the gaming industry. For some reason, they were unable to survive in the fierce gaming market. And in today's video, we'll talk about some good but unlucky games, because the studio that made them was also short-lived. Okay, let's get started. One, Kingdom of Amalur: Reckoning, 2012. This game deserves to be at the top of this list because it exemplifies how a good game cannot save a studio. Kingdom of Amalur: Reckoning is an appealing game in the action role-playing genre. In the game, players will follow the Fateless One on his journey to save the world of Amalur from annihilation. The Kingdom of Amalur has all of the components of an appealing 2012 game, including an open world for players to explore freely, a rich skill system and task chain, stunning graphics, and intense battles. This game gained amazing success, selling 1.3 million copies in less than 6 months, considerably exceeding the game publisher's expectations. You may be wondering why this game firm went bankrupt while their games were so profitable. It is rather a long story. First, we'll talk about 38 Studios, the company that created the game. This company was founded by Curt Schilling, a professional baseball player with a great passion for video games. In 2006, he started Green Monster Games to create the best games. His first creation was the fantasy game creation Copernicus. This is an MMORPG project set in the world of Amalur. Schilling contacted and collaborated with several other celebrities to transform the game into a modern version of Lord of the Rings. Among them are Todd McFarlane, R.A. Salvatore, and Grant Kirkhope. If you don't know who they are, Todd McFarlane is a well-known comic book artist. He has appeared in numerous projects, including The Amazing Spider and Batman Year 2, and he has also created the character Spawn. R.A. Salvatore writes fantasy and science fiction. His most notable works include The Legend of Drizzt, the Demon Wars Saga, and The New Jedi Order, also known as Vector Prime, the first novel in the Star Wars franchise. Grant Kirkhope is a musician who has composed music for numerous games from 1996 to the present. Some of these include Donkey Kong, 064, GoldenEye 007, Perfect Dark, and Crypt of the Necrodancer. Just listening to the little introduction reveals how amazing this crew is. Schilling decided to change its name to 38 Studio in 2007, which was inspired by the number on his baseball shirt. McFarlane was in charge of character design and art direction on the Copernicus project, while Salvatore was in charge of biography and plot, and Kirkhope was in charge of the music. Following that, the game development team welcomed the participation of a few other names, including Travis McGee, who was the head of design for EverQuest, a classic online game from the 2000s, Irina Pereira, who was in charge of World of Warcraft's user interface, and Ken Ralston, the head of design for parts 3 and 4 of the Elder Scrolls series. Perhaps when you heard this, you had already understood why the reason for the breakup of this game. That's right, recruiting this many famous people is expensive. To take on such a massive project, 38 Studio required extraordinary minds with strong financial management skills. Perhaps as a result of this mistake, 38 Studio has yet to release a finished product 3 years after its inception. At the time, they made a wise decision to buy Big Huge Games, an amazing studio known for the game Rise of Nations. At the time, Big Huge Games held an RPG prototype, which 38 Studio acquired and used to offset their Amalur project, which was dubbed Project Mercury. And so, from an MMORPG project, the game has become an open-world action role-playing game. This new project is also safer because its size has been lowered greatly. Schilling titled the game Kingdom of Amalur: Reckoning and sent it to EA to publish. Despite having a high-quality manufacturing crew, a significant budget deficit remains due to a lack of management abilities. According to estimates, Schilling paid for this project with his own money, which could total up to $14 million. Schilling may be extremely wealthy, but he cannot bear it all alone. At the time, the government of Rhode Island, a small U.S. state, pledged to spend $75 million on the project on the condition that Schilling relocate his studio to Rhode Island and generate hundreds of new employment here. Kingdom of Amalur has exceeded EA's expectations with 1.3 million copies sold, but for developers, that sum is still insufficient to cover all expenditures. According to Rhode Island estimates, 38 Studio needs to sell 3 million copies to start earning a profit. In the year the game was launched, Schilling only paid off more than $1 million in debt. The project's employees were owed pay, and everything swiftly came to a halt. In the end, Kingdom of Amalur, Reckoning, and 38 Studio died together, leaving a debt of more than $150 million, although they had earlier thought that this game might be developed over time. 2. Bionic Commando, 2009. Bionic Commando is a famous Capcom franchise that debuted on the NES in 1988. In 2009, a Swedish developer named Grin created extra content for the game. The events in the game are based on those in the 1988 version, and players follow Nathan Spencer, a special agent for the government. He has a mechanical arm with several specific abilities, including clinging to terrain and grasping and hurling heavy objects. Set in a world surrounded by radiation, where the government is at war with the terrorist organization BioRain. As an action-shooting game with platform aspects, Nathan's ability to fly and jump will undoubtedly keep you excited every time you combat adversaries. You may even grab enemies, fling them at each other, and defeat them with ease. With an intriguing battle system, a detailed storyline, and a unique plot twist, this game deserves more attention than it currently receives. When the game was first published, review sites gave it merely an acceptable rating, although the graphics and plot were highly praised. Reviewers panned the game for being very linear, lacking freedom, and featuring an irritated main character. The world is in danger. The main character has been betrayed by the government and is being treated as a prisoner. There's no reason why the primary character ought to be witty and free-spirited. This game was not as successful as anticipated, and the company went bankrupt shortly thereafter. 3. Okami, 2006. This game can be considered a work of art that promotes the culture of the land of cherry blossoms. Clover Studio created Okami, which combines Japanese mythology and folklore. The game's plot revolves around the solar goddess Amaterasu and how she liberated Nippon from darkness. Players will take on the role of the goddess, who appears as a white wolf, and adventures in a mythological universe. The game provides an outstanding graphical experience. You can perform the skill by controlling the celestial brush. Despite receiving high praise from critics, having a parent company called Capcom, and a reputation from previous successes, Okami's sales were disappointing. After 3 years of release, the game has only sold 600,000 copies. A parallel release project dubbed God Hand met the same end as Okami. Finally, Capcom disbanded Clover Studio shortly after Atsushi Inaba, Hideki Kamiya, and Shinji Mikami announced their departure from the firm. 4. Heroes of Might and Magic 4, 2002. The fourth name on this list is a name that will cause a lot of controversy. This version, which serves as the fourth installment in the once famous Heroes of Might and Magic franchise, differs significantly from the others. First and foremost, we must discuss the hero's capacity to move freely and attack in the game. In my perspective, this element makes heroes more useful than simply standing stationary and casting spells, as in previous parts. The attack and counterattack mechanisms occur concurrently. Troops no longer have upgrades and can move around the map to gather resources without the hero's presence. These changes have resulted in a distinct character for the game. Although the game received positive reviews on game review websites, and GameSpot even stated that Heroes of Might and Magic 4 was a game worth waiting for, sales were below expectations. The explanation is that the gaming community still prefers the third game version. They believe that differences like those in Heroes of Might and Magic 4 are detracting from the series' overall features. When this game is mentioned in the Heroes of Might and Magic 3 community, many people become enraged. The second explanation is that the game's parent firm was experiencing financial troubles at the time. This demonstrates that the time constraint pressure for network computing is not insignificant, and Heroes 4 is also the last game developed by this studio before declaring bankruptcy. 5. Command & Conquer. The name Red Alert is no longer unfamiliar to the gaming community. This game is a branch of the renowned game Command & Conquer. Westwood Studios created this game, which is considered a pioneer in the real-time strategy genre. Command & Conquer has been extremely popular for a decade. The reason it's in this video is because Westwood Studios has caught the eye of EA, a major company in the gaming industry. EA spent money to buy Westwood Studios in 1998, but in the end, this studio was discontinued by EA in 2003 because of continuous project delays. What is the fate of Command & Conquer? The final version of this game was released in 2010. EA recently released the remastered collection of the series, but there's one thing you don't know. Approximately 5 or 6 Command & Conquer projects were cancelled during development. In 2013, they launched a special project dubbed General 2. Despite the presence of John Van Caneghem, the creator of the popular titles My and Magic and Spin of Heroes, the game was ultimately cancelled. Some former employees even claimed that this was a hoax by EA's executives, because the test version of this game was not poorly received, but EA used this as justification to close the studio. 6. Medal of Honor, 1991 to 2012. Before we had Call of Duty, the Medal of Honor was a monument to the FPS game series. DreamWorks Interactive created the first version of Medal of Honor, which was distributed by EA in 1997 for the PlayStation. Right from the start, the game swiftly dominated the community, getting towering scores from game magazines of the time. Director Steven Spielberg was particularly active in the game's development as a producer. But in 2000, EA bought DreamWorks Interactive Studio and renamed it EA Los Angeles. This game has continued to produce 7 new editions and has been quite successful. In July 2010, EA renamed the studio Danger Close Game to focus solely on the Medal of Honor franchise. However, the product quality did not meet their expectations. After only 2 more editions, this studio was formally shut down in 2013. We had to bid farewell to a 2000s legend. 7. Shadow Gambit, The Cursed Crew, 2023. If you've ever been into real-time tactics games like Commandos and Desperados, you've probably heard of Shadow Tactics from Mimimi Games, and Shadow Gambit is this company's final game. Shadow Gambit, which was released in August 2023, is an intriguing combination of the group strategy genre and a pirate theme. The game transports you to a mythical land where you must confront the powerful pirates. Like Mimimi Games' prior products, Shadow Gambit garnered an overwhelmingly good response from the community. However, not long after its inception, this studio faced major financial difficulties due to an unexpected surge in production costs. As a result, the game had to say farewell to players by the end of 2023. 8. Fable Series, 2004 to 2010. Perhaps few people remember this name now, but 20 years ago, Fable held a special place in the hearts of admirers. As an action role-playing game, Fable allows players to fully immerse themselves in the game world. Fable possesses a diverse system of weapons and skills, both for assault and support, that are all fairly reasonably built. The role-playing portion is meticulously crafted, and the game also has a good and evil system. This is seen in the behaviors and attitudes of NPCs toward your character. In addition to the unique task system and a big globe to explore, the game allows you to conduct a variety of additional activities such as playing cards or chess for pleasure. Fable, a collaboration between Big Blue Box and Lionhead Studio, was a massive hit, selling over 2 million copies in 2006. However, Lionhead's next 2 projects, Black and White 2 and the movies, were not successful. As a result, the 2 companies were forced to sell themselves to Microsoft to relieve financial strain. 2 years later, they genuinely revived with Fable 2, which sold 3.5 million copies despite being an Xbox 360 exclusive. However, because of Microsoft's constant urging, the Fable 3 version was published with decent quality on the Xbox 360 system, whilst the PC version was heavily condemned by the gaming community. Peter Molyneux, a game designer, also quit the studio after some disagreements with Microsoft. This also increases the project's difficulty. Finally, Lionhead officially closed in 2016. 9. Bloody Roar, 1997 to 2004. This is a fighting game associated with the childhood of many gamers of the 8X or 9X generation. This game has a strong fan base due to its fast-paced gameplay and ability to turn into monsters. Bloody Roar realistically depicts the character's attacks, using eye-catching graphics to enhance the player's experience. Bloody Roar was most successful on the PlayStation 1 platform. The game's quality has dramatically reduced after its release on new platforms such as Xbox and PlayStation 2. Later, when Hudson Soft, the business that owned the game's copyright, went bankrupt in 2012, Konami invested money to repurchase it and merge it with Konami Digital Entertainment. The game was also officially discontinued from this point. 10. Split Second Velocity 2010. This is a racing game, but it steers players toward more crazy and spectacular gameplay. To win in Split Second, all you need to do is complete each obstacle on the track and survive to the finish line. That's because you and your opponents can destroy each other with special skills every time you perform a risky driving stunt. You will earn points in the power play bar, and if you have enough points, you will be able to create obstacles for opposing cars, unlock shortcuts, and even blow up a section of the circuit. The races in the game have nice graphics and a simple interface, and they provide an engaging experience to help you release stress. However, despite being well acclaimed and with plans for a sequel, Disney dissolved the studio in 2011 due to a shift in business model, and the game has officially said goodbye to players. 11. Neighbors from Hell. The final game on this list is Neighbors from Hell, which is extremely familiar among 9X players. This series has wowed players with its highly hilarious moments. You'll play as Woody and cause mischief with your evil neighbor, Rottweiler. Woody even causes trouble during the neighbor's family vacation in Part 2 of the game. As a puzzle game that is also entertaining, 2 parts of this game are currently available on all platforms. Unfortunately, the game's creator, Joe Wood Productions, declared bankruptcy in 2011 owing to financial issues. Those are good games, but have an unfortunate fate. Have I missed any names? If so, remember to comment below this video to let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any Stranger Games videos. And now, goodbye and see you again.